is my first video on the S18. Let's go over some factual specs first. 90% battery. I've got currently 31 miles on the wheel. Medium pedal hardness. And yeah, man, this S18 is epic. I'm really digging the wheel. So today we're going on some trail rides. I'll go over my shock settings and talk about some things that I've learned about this wheel and compare it to my Kingsong S18X. Drop. I played around with the shock settings some. I weigh 150 pounds and I ended up putting in the main chamber around 175 on the gauge. But as you know, when you disconnect it, the line from the shock, a little bit of air comes out. So I did that a few times to try and guess how much air came out when I disconnected it. And my consensus is that you lose about 30 psi when you disconnect the hose. So if I pump it up to about, 170, 175, that puts me around the 150-ish range, which is how much I weigh. That makes my sag setting around 25 to 30%, static sag, just standing on the wheel. And then on the smaller jumps that I do, I'm not completely bottoming out the shock yet, so I like that. Initially, I pumped the negative chamber up to only around 75 or 80 per like the manual for the shock. But after trying higher PSI, it's much better. So I put about 150 PSI in the negative chamber, but as you know, when you disconnect the hose, you lose a little bit of pressure. So I'm probably around 120 PSI in the negative chamber and 150 PSI in the positive chamber. And that makes the shock a lot smoother on the initial travel. And I really like it. Really like a higher pressure in the negative chamber. It makes the ride much smoother without changing the bottoming resistance on the higher end of the shock, in my opinion, at least from my testing. Cool. Rebound setting. I think I'm like 3 clicks out now. Started at 5, went to 4. Look at these roots. Yeah, so about 3 clicks on rebound. If I'm going really fast, I prefer like maybe 4 clicks on rebound, but slower speeds and jumping over logs and stuff, I like the rebound setting at 3. It's good. Here's a cool fast part. Here, let me stop and show you my pads. So here's the pads that I made out of foam. This plastic is curved a little bit, so it was kind of coming unstuck. I used carpet tape to stick it on there. I discovered I just put some cuts in the foam so that it could curve to the shape of the plastic better, and so because of that, it's sticking better on there. Yeah, and that's working out great for me. I don't even need to put braking pads on because my toe is wedged under here good enough that when I brake hard, I can pull up on this, and that helps slow me down. This really, I only need it if I'm doing some very, very steep hill climbs. So compared to the 16X, I love the way this handles. This wheel feels lighter than the 16X, just like how nimble it is. its ability to weave around. The ability of this wheel to weave around compared to the 16X is much better in my opinion. I much prefer the feeling of this wheel over the 16X. Honestly, the only thing I miss about the 16X is the speakers. I prefer this wheel in every way. I've never used the full range of the 16X. This wheel has plenty of range for me. So, yeah, I love this S18. The best thing about the S18 is how smooth it is on these trails. These trails are very eroded. There's roots everywhere. And on the 16X, it was like riding on a washboard, and it just wore me out to the point where it would chatter my teeth. And this thing is just so much smoother. All right, here's a little fast run. I'll flip the cam. That jump there, for example, on the 16X would just jar my knees and my back. And I'm like riding the 16X, I would clench my teeth because I'm just like, fighting through the bumps. Not on this thing. This thing is freaking sweet, man. It makes the trails always enjoyable, not just the smooth sections. Now I say if you ride trails that are butter smooth and manicured and there's no roots, then the 16X is fine. And you'll get more range out of it, and you can turn your Bluetooth on and play music while you ride. But if you are doing jumps or you have roots on your trails, dude, S18, no contest. So much more enjoyable. Fast section. The other thing, whoa, slick. My 16X was almost not even rideable on the trails without power pads, without making some pads to accelerate and brake. But the S18 kind of comes with the pads contoured to your leg and your feet already. And I could ride this thing completely stock with no pads through these trails, no problem. Much easier than the 16X. I was concerned this wheel wouldn't have as much torque as the 16X, but I don't have any issues. You'll see some hill climbs later. I climb with this wheel. Not a single time has it beeped at me to say, hey, you're overpowering me or anything. This wheel's never beeped at me and told me to relax and take it easy. So no complaints there. All right, we got a nice fast section with a few little jumps coming up. eyes watering. Yeah, no way I could go that fast on the 16X that smoothly. Going that fast on the 16X over rough stuff is way more sketchy. Yeah, so no issues with torque. Same speed as the 16X. If you don't need the range of the 16X, then this S18 is a better wheel in every way, in my opinion. Next up is some jumps. Let's hit them. Do it again, this time with a forward view. Do like a forward view, side view, check it out. Take a break. It's good. Let's take a look at the shock. So after all that, that's where my O-ring ended up at. I think it's almost to the bottom. Almost to the bottom. But that's the most jumps that I do. And so it didn't feel like it bottomed out. That's good enough for me. I'll throw in some clips of some other cool stuff that I recorded with my phone, some slow-mo shots that I think are pretty neat. Let's talk about the tire. So this tire has less tread depth. Than the 16X. However, I think the two grooves that run down the center of the tire actually do a better job. Of maintaining traction during hard turns than my 16X did. But I think traction for acceleration and braking is less than the 16X is off-road, at least. It's great. I ride with my pedals tilted toes up 1 degree, only 1 degree, and to me that's when it's flat, I feel like I kind of tend to slide forward on the pedals too much. So like I'm tilted up just 1 degree, just my preference, either street or off-road. I haven't done much street riding with this wheel. If I have, later on I'll get to do more street riding with it. And if I come across any issues, I'll make another video about that. Be sure and complain about it. But so far, no complaints on or off-road. There's no other wheel that I would buy for off-road riding right now, unless your trails are faster than, I don't know, 25 miles an hour. But if they are, they're probably smooth trails. And yeah, I think a veteran or a Gotway would be a better wheel for that if you have to go that fast. Those routes that are on the trail with a non-suspension wheel are brutal on your legs and your knees and your back. But on this thing, you still feel it, like a lot of the other reviewers have said, but it's not near as harsh. It's a lot easier to handle, and it makes it fun the entire time, more fun. Sections like that I just went through, I can't go near as fast on the 16X as I can on this because of the suspension. It keeps me in control of the wheel because I'm not being jarred so much for the harshness of the solid wheel. To the spot. It's pretty cool. Whoa. Mud, man. We've had nothing but rain for like 3 days straight. So there's a lot of mud out here. It's slick. But it's fun. It's a challenge. I could go with a knobby tire, maybe. Hopefully someone will work out which knobby tires fit on this S18 pretty soon. I don't want a full knob motocross tire because I don't want to tear trails up. but a semi-knobby, like a veteran Sherman or a mountain bike tire, would be ideal for me. And here goes the long bridge. Yeah, if you are riding trails, if you're riding trails like these, or rocky trails too. I ride in El Paso, Texas as well, and there's a lot of mountain bike trails there where electric e-bikes are allowed, so I rode this there as well. And those trails are just rocky. It's dry desert environment, so it's very hard dirt and then pretty large rocks throughout the whole trails as well. I haven't had a chance to test this wheel in that environment yet, but I will in the future, and I'll make a video about that. Share that with you guys. Riding backwards off-road is harder than it is on the road, for sure. So if you got questions, leave it in the comments. I look forward to the new wheels coming out in 2021. I want more suspension wheels like this, but I want one that can go at least 35 miles an hour, preferably 40 miles an hour. That would be ideal. My ideal wheel for me is an S18 that can go 40 miles an hour. And maybe a little longer range, but I would prefer more speed than range. However, I know those two things are related. You gotta have the range to be able to get the power to give you the speed. So I grasp that concept. So yeah, if someone can make a wheel like this with this type of suspension, but it goes 40 miles an hour, sold, I'll buy it.